Hello, and welcome to this ChannelX live masterclass on selling beyond borders. Delighted to be joined today by Adrien from Webinterpret. Hello,
Hi, Chris.
Adrien, and how are you today?
Good, very well, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, I think we'll dive straight in. We're going to be looking today at the untapped potential of international marketplaces. So, Adrien, first of all, tell us a little bit about Webinterpret and what you guys do. I know in the past, we first knew you through the eBay European Sales Booster program, but what are you guys doing today outside of eBay?
Sure. So I'll just brief you quickly about us and what we do. So at Webinterpret, we are really helping brands and retailers to expand globally on marketplaces. So really, we are helping customers that are selling on local marketplaces to start in their international selling journey through marketplaces, or sellers that already do sell internationally on marketplaces that wants to do more or do better. And over the years, we have developed different technologies, products, and services around localization, translation, content optimization, advertising management, logistics, compliance. We package it up, and then we make it seamless for sellers to really expand globally.
And when we're talking globally, which sort of territories do you see most traction with? Obviously, for the UK, Europe is a big market, and for Europeans, the UK is a big market. Right. But which other territories around the world do you see a lot of traction?
Yeah. So, like you said, the European markets are the main selling territory for our UK customers. But we see a lot of traction in North America, especially United States as well as Canada. And we have as well a good traction in Israel as well as Australia. These are generally in the top 10 of the selling country for our UK clients.
So a big spread around the world then, all the way from Australia to Israel. Tell us a bit about how you guys can simplify international e-commerce.
Right. So you probably know Webinterpret from the ESB program with eBay. That was our background, and that's the way how we grew. So through that a partnership with eBay, we have developed a set of technologies, like I said earlier, around content localization, translation, marketing management, and logistics. And so we've done that for a lot of eBay sellers historically. And at some point, we span out all these services and adapted them for all the marketplaces. And today we have a second flagship product, which is called the Marketplace Brand Accelerator, which essentially what we do, we are receiving some stock from the brand customer domestically, and then we take it from there, we import that into the destination country, and then we manage the entire selling journey through all the services I mentioned earlier.
Great.
And Webinterpret in number, before we get to the topic, so we are in business for about 16 years now. Last year, we have generated about 300 million euro of incremental sales globally for our customers. And we proudly count about 170 people in our team that are working from multiple continents. And the benefits of having people in Asia, Europe, and North America really allow us to understand the local constraint, the local habits to, again, represent our customers and sell efficiently for them.
So we've got sort of three talking points today. Why sell on international marketplaces, looking at the operational challenges, and then looking at how we can unlock global commerce. So tell us about the sort of fundamental reasons why selling on international marketplaces in particular is essential for companies to grow and prosper in today's world.
Sure. So really the first point is the size. When you look at the UK market, which is the largest European market when it comes to e-commerce, the B2C retail sales represent about 120 billion euro a year. But if you take North America and Europe. This represents 1,700 billion worth of sales, which is about 15 times greater than the UK. And if you take the entire world, 3,600 billion euro yearly worth of sales and growing, which represent an opportunity 31 times larger. So if you do that properly, if you tap into new market properly, you can really grow your business, right? So the size of the opportunity is the first point. The second point is really the trend of cross-border e-commerce. More and more shoppers globally are used to shop from local as well as international retailers / brands. So it's getting more and more common. And the second key point is that looking at the growth of cross-border e-commerce, it is growing at a pace of about 25% per year. At least it is expected to, which is twice as much as the domestic trend. So really thinking hard about how can you sell efficiently on international marketplaces can really help you to grow your business. And the third point I wanted to make here is that when selling globally, you can do it direct to customers through your own web store, or you can do it through marketplaces. And of course, we recommend you to have a mix of the two, because it's always better to have multiple sales channels. However, in a context of launching your business on a certain country, we generally recommend to start from the marketplace. Why? Because it allows you to really tap into a pool of buyers that are accessible. So your cost of acquisition is lower than if you need to acquire new buyers internationally. And your time to market is as well faster, because again, you have multiple services available. You have an experience that is trusted by international buyer. So by publishing your product properly on these marketplaces, your time to market is generally faster. And the last note on that, some surveys tells that by 2025, the share of marketplace e-commerce is expected to represent 60% of the entire e-commerce sales. So again, a growing trend to be visible on marketplaces. And to finish with the numbers, like in the UK, every events, trade shows I'm participating, it's all about Brexit since the past few years. So today I didn't really want to again talk about Europe and Brexit. I wanted to let's say speak more about the North American region, which we don't speak as much, even though it's a great growth potential for you. When you look at that region, the size is significant. We are talking about 900 billion worth of B2C retail sales there in the three countries, Canada, US, and Mexico. And the other interesting fact is that American buyers or Mexican buyers are very used to buy from international brands or retailers, about 60%, if I'm not mistaken, in the US, and in Mexico, 2/3 of the transactions are being made through foreign sellers. So there is for you a real opportunity to grow there because of the size and because as well of the, let's say, use of the buyers to buy from international brands and retailers.
Yeah, so a really big marketplace. But are there any other factors that make it an ideal choice for expansion? And I'm immediately thinking, obviously, language is. It's very, very similar. At least Canada and the US, they speak English, although obviously part of Canada's French, and there's a lot of linguistic differences between. We call the pavement the bit you walk on, but in the US they call the pavement the bit the cars drive on. So there are language differences, even though they're English. But are there any other kind of factors that make it extremely attractive to sell in North America?
Yeah, another factor that is interesting is that for UK or European brands, they will get a success in North America in an easier manner than in other regions because of history, let's say culture, let's say, that are reasonably close between, let's say, Europe, UK, and North America. So the product produced in Europe or in the UK will find an easier success there rather than launching in other regions, which are sometimes a bit more complex to tap into.
Understand. So we've had a look at the sort of why sell internationally. So I guess the next thing is to talk about the operational challenges that are needed, and particularly for North America. Obviously, there's logistics, there's regulation, but tell us a bit more about the challenges, what we need to be aware of when selling in these countries, and how to get started and generate business.
Sure. So for anyone that have tried to sell internationally or that is selling internationally, you are probably quite used to these challenges, which are numerous. One of the big challenges is how do I generate traffic to my international listing in multiple languages? How do I convert that traffic into a sale? How do I get my product to the target country? How do I distribute that product with the right shipping and return? And how to make sure that this entire selling journey is compliant with local regulation. And all these challenges will depend on a country. So the more country you are selling into, the harder and the most challenge you will face, right? Because these challenges will multiply by the number of countries you are supporting. So here, I just want to flesh out multiple challenges that our customers see when going international. And the first one is compliance. It is important to say that if you really want to be successful internationally, you need to sell as a local, which means it is highly recommended to have stock in the target country in order to have stock close to your buyers. And if you want to do that, a lot of compliance comes alongside it. In the context of the US, you need to register to have a tax identification number, so-called EIN, in order to declare, for instance, your income as a foreign business in the US, for instance. And then you need as well to register for sales tax in some states. And this is not easy because some states do have agreements with the marketplaces. Some states do not have. In the case of Tennessee, for instance, you need to register for sales tax and file sales tax reports as soon as you have stock in Tennessee. In New York, you have the so-called economical nexus. So if you exceed a certain level of sales, you will need to register for sales tax in New York. While in Texas, you don't necessarily need to register if you are selling on marketplaces. And all that is quite complex for businesses to manage. Then you've got all the import and export, which I'm sure all the audience is familiar with, but you need to make sure your export documentation is clean. So, you know, your VAT will be compliant in the UK, that your import documents are clean as well for the US, that your products are properly classified with HS or HS code, that as well you've got the certificates to allow you to pass the borders. And the last element that is quite complex is all the returns compliance. If you want to return your goods from an international country back to your home country in the UK, you will need to manage the so-called duty drawback to get the refund for what was exported at the really beginning. And you need as well to manage all the reverse custom procedures, which require some paperwork. So it is manageable, but it is complex, and sometimes it is quite a headache for businesses.
And can I ask, while we're talking about this, how much do the marketplaces like Amazon and Walmart offer help with this? And do they offer the services themselves? Obviously, we know Amazon do FBA, for example, but the registration, the filing, the returns, how much assistance can the marketplaces offer? And how much do we need to take care of ourselves?
They generally do that through partners. They do not have services to manage it themselves. They dedicate that through partners.
Perfect.
The second key point when selling internationally is the localization. So to be successful, it is important that you offer to your international buyer a local experience. And from a content perspective, a localization means a proper translation. Tablets in English, in some other language, could mean an iPad or a pills, like a medicine, right? And so you need to choose the right word, especially in the context of machine translation, because if you choose the wrong word, your item will be wrong, could not convert, or could convert and generate insatisfaction. So contextual translation is a key element. You then need to choose as well the right category where you need to sell to. The more marketplaces, the more category mapping that needs to be done. You need to structure your title and your content in the form expected by the marketplace. You need as well to localize your currency, your metric system, the sizing system, etc. So all that needs to be done before you are getting started in a certain country. And the other key element when it comes to content is to localize and enrich the attributes. It is essential to have as many attributes as possible in your product page, because the way how buyers are behaving on marketplaces, very often they are filtering the search to make sure the search gives back the sort of product they are expecting. And if your product attributes are not rich enough, your item will not be visible as the buyer is searching. And in the context of localizing the attributes, we had recently a French customer, selling vinyl, like old school type of CDs. And in France, it's measured in centimeter, but in Germany, it is measured in inches. And prior to the localization of the attributes, his items were not really searchable on the search. Once we did do the localization effort, then the customer started to sell. And what we see with our data is that enriching your attribute can allow you to grow your sales by 5 to 8% on average.
That's pretty massive. And I would never have known that on a vinyl record, half the world measures in inches and the other half in centimeters. And I think it's that kind of thing you need expertise from. And so I'm going to ask the question now, where can we get that kind of in-depth expertise? Obviously companies like Webinterpret can help, but do we need people on the ground to sell into, say, the US, or can we get that expertise and do it remotely?
Right. So in order to localize all that, you generally have two choices, right? Whether you do it in-house or whether you outsource it, you can do it through human, right? Which will literally translate manually all your inventory, your attribute, localize it all, or through machine translation, right? Which is definitely much more affordable. So you generally need to choose between the two. Generally, the top sellers need particular attention. So it's always good when a human goes through it. But for all the long tail, we generally recommend to do it through machine localization with solutions such as ours, for instance.
Oh, that does make sense.
Cool. The next big theme is around media management, because once you are compliant, once your items are localized and listed on the marketplace, you then need to drive sales. And there is what we call at Webinterpret the virtuous cycle of media management. The starting point is to have proper listing. And in the context of a brand, it means as well ensuring you have a brand store on the marketplace, that you have A+ content embedded onto your listing to make sure that when buyers are going to your branded product on the marketplace, they are within your universe, right? So that's really the step one of media management, and that could generate some organic sales. Step two is to invest in advertising on marketplaces to drive sales onto your listings. At the beginning, the marketing campaign will not necessarily be efficient, but it will allow to drive traffic and to drive sales. And as a result, drive sales history. Once you start selling your item, you will start to get feedback and ratings, which will contribute to your organic selling, getting some data, enriching the SEO with keywords, and then improving your marketing campaigns. So it's really important to have these three aspects of the selling journey: your own media, which is really for your brand awareness and SEO management, marketing and advertising paid media, and earned media, which relates to your sales history. So a little bit more about the owned media. Like marketplaces are not only a channel to sell, it is as well a very efficient channel to broadcast your brand and grow your brand awareness on international market, right? So it is really essential that you are transferring your brand ecosystem, environment, and all your brand asset on your marketplace listing, so that again your international buyer perceives your experience within the marketplace. And then paid media. So this is a huge topic. Over the past 5, 7, 8 years, marketplaces have invested a lot in paid marketing tools. And these days, for instance, on Amazon, about 30% of the search is now sponsored. So if you are not sponsoring your item on the Amazon marketplaces, your item will sometimes struggle to sell. So we generally do advise the brand to invest on paid marketing. However, in the context of cross-border selling, this creates some friction, right? Because you have multiple languages, keywords to manage in multiple languages, and then you need to optimize all these campaigns in multiple countries and multiple languages. So generally, what we recommend to do is to start generating campaign to generate traffic, not look too much at the efficiency. And as you go, optimize your marketing campaign by creating manual campaign with very specific keywords, removing the keywords that are not well converting, removing keywords that are generating traffic but no sale, etc. And at Webinterpret, we have developed a programmatic product in order to manage all that on multiple countries. So we can manage advertising in multiple languages and countries on behalf of the clients. And the last point, which is a pain point for everyone, I'm sure, is the international logistics. So like I said earlier, if you want to be successful on international markets, you need to act as a local player. And to act as a local player, that means having stock locally or very close to your international buyer. But to do that, you need to ship by bulk your item into that country. And a lot of problem comes from that because the cost could be quite high, especially in the context of UK to US, right? So generally what we do recommend and what we do for sellers is that we launch the product, we ship the product with an express carrier. It is not very cost effective necessarily, but it allows to test, understand the market demand, understand how the product reacts in the US. And once we understand and we collect enough data, we then ship item by bulk via sea freight or consolidated shipment. So then we can run the operation efficiently. The second key advice that we give to customers, or we do operate on their behalf, is to leverage as much as possible the logistics network of the marketplace. Marketplaces such as Amazon have built a fabulous logistics service, FBM, that pretty much everybody know. It works very well. It is complex to manage, but as soon as you understand how to manage it, it could be fantastic for your sales and for your growth internationally. And the last item, like I said earlier, fulfill at least locally your fast movers. Shipping abroad is okay, but you are never gonna drive a lot of sales if you are shipping across continents, because a lot of buyers want their item now. And if they have to wait 2 to 3 weeks in order to get their item, it is often a friction in conversion and success for our customers. So I hope this clarifies a bit and opens the door to international selling, Chris.
Yeah, and I especially like the advice of kind of testing the market by selling long distance, but swallowing the cost of express shipping. So they're still getting the product within a couple of days, albeit and maybe not as quickly as locally, but kind of almost using that as marketing dollars to find out what's going to sell. And then once you know the products that are going to be your fast movers, then shipping them in bulk. Because one of the questions I was going to ask you later was, how do I know how much product of which product to send into a local fulfillment in the US? And you've pretty much answered it there. But by saying test the waters and just swallow the cost of express shipping, even if you're losing money, because that'll tell you which products are going to fly in that market once you've got them locally. So really appreciate that. But I think we should move on now to how can Webinterpret help brands and retailers unlock the global commerce opportunity, especially as we've been talking about North America. In North America?
Sure. Just wanted to add one element to your comment, Chris. Prior to launch products onto a destination market, it is always good to look at the competitions, and there are a lot of tools available on the market. We have as well our internal tool to understand the demand on a given country. So we generally focus on the top sellers of the brand and analyze if those items would have a success in a target marketplace. And once it's validated, we generally ship them in order to distribute them. Understand.
Thanks for that.
Okay, so how can Webinterpret help? So like you mentioned earlier, Chris, pretty much people know us for the ESB program. So I'm not going to cover that today. I'm going to cover the second flagship product that we have developed at Webinterpret, which is the Marketplace Brand Expansion Program, which is solely for brands. So here, really, we are taking over all the issues that I've mentioned earlier around compliance, around shipping, around import, export, advertising management, media management, etc. Because the proposition is that the brand put some stock at our disposal. We literally take it from there locally, and then we manage all the export and the entire selling journey on the target marketplace. So that's really the customer just have to send us the stock, align with us on the sales strategy, pricing strategy, etc. And that's it. We are going to run the show afterward. And the benefits really of that program is multiple. One, it allows brands which cannot necessarily operate as a local in multiple countries to operate as a local thanks to the Webinterpret presence in all our offices. So we have this understanding of international market. The second key element is that we cover the entire selling journey on behalf of the brand, right? Like I said, we cover all the services. And the third point is that by fulfilling the item locally, it really helps the brand to accelerate on their international selling journey.
Well, so what you're telling me here is that I'm effectively, as a brand, putting my product with Webinterpret, and then Webinterpret act as the retailer on my behalf.
Almost. We don't like to call it as a retailer because we, like the brand has full hand on their marketing strategy, on their advertising budget, on their pricing strategy. But indeed, we are sort of distributing the product of the brand on international market, yes.
And who takes care of doing things like the sales tax compliance, etc.? And what happens if there's returns?
So Webinterpret do, because we are acting as a distributor, everything happens under our accounts and everything happens under our business. And because we have managed all this compliance, the sales tax registration and all these things, the brand customer do not have anything to do.
That's amazing. So I've got to ask the question. It sounds fantastic, still having control of the pricing and marketing, but effectively letting you do all the difficult bits, the distribution and the sales tax.
Correct.
But marketplaces are offering lots nowadays. I mean, both Walmart and Amazon in the US have got fulfillment, for example. Why should a customer choose Webinterpret rather than perhaps engaging directly with the marketplace?
So it's a good question. I mean, brand can certainly leverage some of the services offered by the marketplace, but they will still need to do things themselves. They still need to run their marketing campaign. They still need to optimize their content. They still need to be compliant, file the tax return, etc. So what we are proposing is to leverage some of the tools of the marketplaces, but let Webinterpret do it on their behalf, so they just can focus on their core markets.
Fantastic. This sounds really interesting. So I've got to ask the question, what sort of brands would be best positioned to work with you, where you can really give maximum assistance? Is it by category, sort of consumer electronics or fashion or home and garden? Or is it by the sort of the scale of their business? For UK brands, the scale of their business in UK, is that an indication of success in the US, or is it something else, or is it a mixture?
It's a mixture. Of course, car part sellers are difficult because cars in the US are not the same car model as in the UK, for instance. Some of the electronics the same because the plugs model could be different in the US or in the UK. However, we often try to work with brands that do already sell on Amazon, at least domestically, because it makes the expansion much faster and much easier. So we can analyze the demand much better. So that's one of the requirements. And the second main requirement is we like when the products are FBA eligible. Like I said earlier, like the logistics from the marketplace, such as FBA, is a fantastic leverage to grow. So we try to use it as much as possible. And
a lot of customers, as you mentioned, will already be selling on Amazon in the UK and Europe. But perhaps Walmart isn't quite so well known. So can you just tell us a little bit about the Walmart marketplace and the opportunity they have?
Sure. So Walmart is an interesting marketplace, very fast growing in the US, as I'm sure you all know. So it is a very good generalist marketplace to sell into in the US. However, there are some constraints, especially around onboarding. So if a seller wants to sell directly, for instance, onto Walmart, if I recall properly, they needs to be registered in the US with a local address. I think they need to have GTIN numbers, if I'm not mistaken. So there is a bit more complexity that we are taking over as well on behalf of the client. But it's a good marketplace to sell into, definitely.
And people are going to want to know what kind of speed they can get up and running. I mean, we're in the middle of September now. Q4 is like knocking on the door. Is it too late to get product in the US with Webinterpret and be selling on Amazon.com and Walmart.com in time for Black Friday and Christmas?
It is still time, luckily. If the brand is reactive enough and really willing to do that, we could launch a customer there in a matter of 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, including that is very quick because again we are a tech company at its basis, so everything is pretty much automated, right? So in matter of 2 to 3 weeks, we can start shipping some product in the US and then just operate.
And I think that kind of 2 to 3 weeks has kind of taken my breath away and shocked me because that is mega fast. Because if a brand wanted to do it on their own, they're not already operating in the US, it'll take them that long just to get a tax ID number.
Yes, probably longer.
without having the product there. So this is really interesting. So what advice would you give for a brand that's watching this today? How do they know if they're ready for the US? And how do they know whether they should take their time and do it themselves or go with Webinterpret?
Sure. What we generally recommend to the brands is to focus on the markets they know. because they are more likely to get the most out of optimizing their operation, optimizing their sales out of the UK, potentially out of the Europe if they are already present. However, if the US is a new market, there are a lot of differences operationally from operating there. So generally, we propose the brands to let experts run that for them. It's generally faster, and it is generally better in order to have better sales performances.
I want to really thank you, Adrien, because we've covered an awful lot today, from sort of the reasons for selling internationally, which I think are pretty well known anyway, but some of the operational challenges, from the regulatory side to the import-export side to the return side, and the expertise of localization, etc. But I think this is a really interesting proposition for brands that Webinterpret have got, and one that's pretty unique, because yes, you could say I'll use Walmart's fulfillment, I use Amazon's fulfillment, but that still leaves a lot of hurdles to jump yourself. So if a brand is interested, Adrien, and they want to find out more about the Webinterpret services for selling in the States, and how do they get hold of you? What's the best way of getting hold of Webinterpret?
Sure. So they can, of course, contact us through the contact form that we have available on the website, or they can as well connect directly with me on LinkedIn. I would be very happy to get connected to them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. And if you want to find out more, Google Webinterpret for their website, which you'll find very easily, or look up Adrien on LinkedIn, and you'll be able to get in touch direct. And failing that, my email address, chris@channelx.world. Just drop me a line. I'll be happy to introduce you. Adrien, thank you so much for your time. This has been fascinating. And
Thank you very much,
look forward to hearing more about selling to the US in the future. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.